Turner, who is with the Conservation Fund, and she was kind enough to fund this project through APAC. Yes, and Ari is a member and Graylin is a member. And we also have women that are a part of this who are a part of our Women Like Us boot camp. So we're just delighted to have all of you here. Stacia, would you like to have a few words?
Welcome everyone. I'm really excited to support this really timely programming about trauma and trauma-informed programming and nature, and really excited to give Brenda and colleagues this platform to talk on this really important matter that I think a lot of people are hungry to learn about. Just wanted to note that this session is going to be recorded so that people who aren't able to be on live can review this content, and so that we can come back to it later because we think this content is really valuable. And also I'm going to be playing sort of a tech support role. Lord help us all. And so if you've got any issues, please feel free to use the chat function, and you can directly chat me if you've got any issues that you want to that you need taken care of. We're gonna have you all muted to make sure that we give the presenters space to talk without interruption or any unintended sort of background noise. And then when Brenda and colleagues begin to sort of have you know, more of a dialogue situation, we'll either unmute you or prompt people to ask questions in the chat. So with that, I think that's pretty much all I had to say. So let me know what you need from me, Brenda, and we'll take it away.
Thank you, Stacia. So Stacia, can we share the tree?
Yes, we
you
can.
Guys, as we look at trauma and as we look at trauma in people and we look at trauma in nature, we liken what we are going through as a tree. And you're going to say, oh my God, Brenda, how can you do that? Well, I'm going to show you this wonderful trauma tree that we found that sort of reflects what a lot of people are going through during this period of COVID. And we're just so grateful to all of you for being on this webinar. This is our first, so we appreciate your patience and your understanding. So while Stacia is pulling up the tree, I just wanted to share that during this period of COVID, we're finding that many folks, especially in disfavored communities, are pregnant with great promise. And what do I mean by that? So rather than calling it COVID-19, I call it COVID-50, because we've noticed in a lot of our communities that folks are starting to gain weight, and because of the sedentary lifestyle that folks have started to adopt as a result of us staying home. So can you guys see the tree?
Trying to see if I can make this bigger.
Okay, no, don't make it bigger. It's good.
Okay.
Can
everyone see it? Are you able to thumbs up? Great.
Yeah, so so as you look at this tree, it's important to know that as we look at trauma, that there is hope beyond the hurt that we may experience during this time. If you look on the left side of the tree, you see that it's barren. There's fear and sadness and pain and poor sleep and headaches, anger, depression. But if you look on the right side of the tree, we can see that there can be a balance of compassion and health and self-esteem and growth and wellness and fulfillment. So what we're hoping to do during this season of COVID, as we look at trauma, is go from a barren tree to a very healthy green tree with lots and lots of leaves. Stacia, can we go to the presentation?
Yes, we can. Let me move this out of the way.
And guys, if you have any questions while we're going through this, please just let us know, because we want this to be as interactive as possible. Also, I want to stress that trauma and toxic stress involve feeling overwhelmed by different life experiences that can lead to physical, emotional, and substance abuse problems. So for those of you that are here in the District of Columbia, I'm sure that you guys are all aware that if you ever look at a map of the district, you always see that things are heightened east of the river in Ward 7 and 8. And when you look at chronic disease, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, we are also mindful that this also opens us up to transmission than it would to other communities. So as we look at this, I'm sorry. As we look at this, I just wanted us all to be mindful that we're traumatized by the fact that sometimes, so I'll tell my story. I'm traumatized by the fact that I am an African American woman who is exhausted. For a long, long time, I didn't understand why my life was like in a vicious cycle. And it just didn't seem like, it was always like there was this negative energy and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then when the protest happened, you guys, it just made me realize that I had been traumatized by the elements outside of my home, the elements in my community, and a lot of stuff that I just didn't understand. And as we look at trauma, are you bringing it up?
Oh, can people not see it?
Yeah, we still see the tree.
Oh, you still see the tree. I have, because on my screen, it is showing, hold on one second. I have the PowerPoint up. So let me try this again. Thank you guys for your patience.
And yes, Jamie, we will be happy to put the link in the chat box for the tree.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, great.
And I'm hoping Olga Olsby was our presenter from the Clean Slate.
Oops, sorry, hold on one second.
From the Clean Slate group, so I hope she gets on here shortly. Oh, there she is. Olga. Can we unmute Olga?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Yay! Olga is here, you guys. She can do the presentation.
Olga. Unmute. Olga, you should be able to, if you click on the, okay, you're unmuted now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We're so happy to see you.
I am so sorry. I was on Google Meet and couldn't get in, but I'm glad I'm here now.
All right, well, we are ready for your presentation. We've got all these wonderful people that have signed in, and we're anxiously awaiting to hear from you. And Stacia's going to pull up the PowerPoint.
Yes, okay. Hopefully. Give me 1 second.
Well, Olga, just go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, again, thank you for having me here. I'm so happy to join. So sorry about the little glitch. I didn't keep everyone waiting too long. But my name is Olga Olsby. I've known Brenda for quite some time. So I was really thrilled when she asked me to do this. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is just in terms of power and trauma-informed care, how to basically take care of ourselves, and particularly in times with this around COVID. And when I've talked to Brenda about this before, we all end up having some things that come in our lives that's unexpected. Things happen every day. But what happened with COVID was totally and completely different. It shut down things just overnight. Our lives change. And so when things like that happen, it produces a great deal of unexpected stress in our lives. Okay. And so what happens with
Can you guys
this,
see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry to
that's
interrupt.
my introduction. So if you can go to the next one, we'll talk about stress to the unexpected. Just to share, just for a quick second, what happened to me in terms of that life events switching over so quickly. I was teaching at the university here, where I am now at Alcorn State University, and so overnight we had to put students online. We had students who were out on spring break, and so it wasn't like we had time to prepare anyone for anything. And so it was a lot of dealing with what they needed to do for classes, but also dealing with some things that were happening in their personal life as well. So I started dealing with not only my stress, but their stress as well. And then to have a mother who had just moved into an independent living facility and was settling in, was trying to make that major adjustment, and then they locked down the facility. And so relatives couldn't get in to see her. I couldn't get in to see her. And so that caused a great deal of stress on both of us. And so when we have unexpected situations like that, and particularly dealing with something that we're going through right now, which is a 1 in 100-year life event, because it's been that long since we've had something else this traumatic in our lives, we have to deal with sudden changes. And sometimes that's really difficult to do because in the situation we're in right now, we don't know how long this is going to last. And so the stress from this can cause all sorts of things, from depression. We're hearing that a lot as people are undergoing that now, sometimes for the first time. Anxiety disorders are on the increase. And I always tell people, do not underestimate the importance of looking at and dealing with anxiety. Because oftentimes anxiety symptoms can also mirror heart attacks. And so that's really serious, because that's really taking what's happening, on your emotional level and having that physical manifestation of what's going on. So that's important. When you start having cognitive problems, you can't remember things, you're having difficulty, keeping a line of thought. People go through that when they're stressed out. So that's important to recognize. But when that starts happening in terms of long term, then that's something that you really need to have that checked out as well. Mood alterations. The lockdown has been really difficult for people. And so it's changed people in terms of not having that, I think, flesh to flesh, encounters with people. I miss hugging folk because I'm a hugger, and I see I have some other huggers on the line too. I finally met up with some friends that I hadn't seen in months because of this. And we were trying to do all the right things and put the mask on and meeting outside, social distancing. Every instinct in my body was to run up and hug them, And so, that's a real problem for people when, because that has altered our whole being in terms of what we go through. And there's the problem with, memory, having some memory loss. Some people are expecting that. And some of these can really lead to some very serious physical health problems as well, such as heart attack. The thing that worries me about this is that people are so afraid about going to the hospital that, they're letting some of these things linger. And that's a really bad idea. If you're feeling some of these symptoms and, you're feeling that discomfort, do not just assume that your heart attack is an anxiety attack. You need to call your doctor, call someone and make sure that you're getting that checked up. But if you're feeling depression, do not, just go into a room, shut all the windows and doors and the blinds closed. Call someone, because there are behavioral health specialists that can do health as well. So seek the treatment that you need, because we will get through this, but sometimes we need a little extra help in terms of getting through this, okay? If we can go to the next slide.
Mhm.
So, what happens in terms of when we're going through a situation like this is that we start experiencing some level of trauma. And trauma can be different things for different people. And partly what we see in terms of, trauma is that, not everyone deals with adverse events in the same way, and that is okay. So trauma is the experience of an event by a person that is emotionally painful or distressful, which can lead to lasting physical and mental effects. And trauma is defined by the experience of the survivor. So what may happen to me, I may be able to get over it. I may have the wherewithal in terms of addressing that traumatic event or that adverse event, but that's not the same for everybody. And that's not a sign of weakness. Okay, you need to be able to recognize that some people are going to deal with things in a totally different way. But if someone is saying that this has been traumatic for me, I'm having difficulty, believe them, honor that, because that's their experience. Okay, so some of the situational and chronic trauma events that people run up against, and this is not even a full list, okay? Because when I usually talk to audiences about trauma, I have this long list of things that people can experience. But I just wanted to give you some insight in terms of the type of trauma that we may be experiencing now, or families are going through, particularly because of COVID. So we have financial trauma. I'm a certified financial social worker, so I talk about financial trauma a lot. And that's usually the sudden, financial hit that a family or an individual may have. And that can be very traumatic because there are people who are now sitting in their cars at food lines that never been there before. Okay, that's traumatic. Not knowing how you're going to feed your children when that was not a problem for you before, that's traumatic, and so that financial hit can be extremely serious and debilitating for a lot of people because they've never found themselves in this situation before. Forced displacement, and that gets also linked to that financial trauma. We have a lot of families that are facing eviction right now. And even though there's a moratorium on evictions, their rent is still piling up, okay? And so they still have this huge debt that's hung over their heads. They may be safe for right now in terms of having a roof over their head, but they still have to deal with the long-term economic impact of what this COVID is experiencing. So we have to recognize that, even though people may look like they're fine on the outside, we don't know what they're dealing with. And that that's going to have an impact on them in terms of how they're dealing with everyone else and how they're seeing themselves in the world around them. Okay. The other thing that we were experiencing on a large scale, and something I'm getting into in terms of my research, is traumatic grief and separation. We've lost so many people, just since March. I think the count I saw today was up to 190,500 people. The projections are not good. So when you take away the numbers and start realizing we're talking about people, we're talking about family members, we're talking about losing moms and dads and even children and grandparents and cousins and all sorts of loved ones. That's traumatic. I have a couple of students that I've spoken to just in the last couple of weeks have told me that they've lost anywhere from 2 to 4 family members just since March, all due to COVID. Okay, that's trauma. And so we have to recognize what these families are going through in grief, and to take it back to financial trauma. These are unexpected deaths. So a lot of times families are not prepared economically for what these deaths are going to cost family members. Okay, so that's another layer of trauma that takes place as well. We also see an increase of abuse and neglect, especially among children and the elderly. We're witnessing, on top of COVID, natural disasters. I'm still dealing in the southern part of Mississippi, in a town called Laurel, Mississippi, that had a tornado on Easter Sunday and lost several people And, people lost their homes. And so, while we have that, we've had hurricanes that, wiped out the town of, not wiped it out, but severely damaged Lake Charles, Louisiana. We have the fires in California. We have people dealing with some really serious traumatic events. And then on top of that, they have the extra level of COVID. And then they're going to have the financial trauma because they're also displaced. So you see that trauma is usually not just one type of trauma. It could be a series of things that's happening in a person's life. And so these are all things that we have to deal with. And then there's the domestic sexual abuse, community violence that's taking place that's on the increase now. And social scientists trying to figure out why in the midst of COVID are we having all this escalation of interpersonal violence. I think part of it is because people are locked in together. And, and there's a saying in the South that, we generally, go after the people that we love because they're the closest to us. So, that's part of the reality of what we're seeing. But again, I think it also reverts back to that financial trauma as well, because when people are hurting economically, other people around them will hurt too. Okay. And then there's food insecurity, because I mentioned the long lines and that people are now more food insecure during this period than they've ever have been, probably since the Great Depression. We did not think that we'd ever see food lines again in this country, but my church, other churches, all sorts of groups are basically feeding people and getting them the meals that they need to for their survival. Or what breaks my heart to hear families where the parents are saying, we don't eat so the children can. Okay, so that is adding a different layer as well. Can we go to the next one?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, what I
lag.
Okay, we're there because I want to talk a little bit about coping.
For some reason, it's not letting me advance the slides.
Olga, you can keep talking.
Okay. All right. Well, let me bring it up so I can see.
Is it coping?
Yeah. Yes. Here we go.
Okay.
All
great.
right. Thank you. Okay. Well, the couple of things I want you to remember in terms of how to cope through this. One, you can't always control events, but you can control how you respond to them. Okay. And I think that that's an important thing for people to remember, that things are always going to happen. So it's not what's happening, is how you're able to respond to that, how you react to it. What is it that you need to draw from, either from your inner strength or people around you, in order to help you get through that and respond to it. And the best way to often respond to a situation is to take the time to take a breath, meditate, pray over it, and reflect. Step back from it, because if you're going through and all of a sudden you're reacting to every single thing, your heart will start racing. You start having real difficulty responding to it. You're responding to things, being reactive as opposed to proactive. And that seldom works out the way we want it to work out. So, take that time, take some breaths, take some time to meditate. If you're a religious person, take the time to pray. But you need to be able to reflect on where you are, what's happening right now, what is that you absolutely have to do, and be able to assess. And one of the best ways that I think that you can really assess is do a SWOT analysis. And some people are familiar with a SWOT analysis from their business, because this is something that used to take place primarily in the business world, of looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And usually when they would go through strategic planning, for the organization, where do we want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 10, 15 years? Well, people started realizing, this is really good for my personal life too. Where do I want to be in 5 years? Do I still want to be here? Do I want to be in the same place? Or, are there things I need to do today and start building on that'll get me to where I want to be later on? And when the next emergency happen or the next crisis happen, you'll be in a better place because you laid out that plan. I remember after my dad died, my mom and I were doing my dad's obituary, and she says to me, I don't know why a crisis never happens at a good time. And I'm going, when exactly would be a good time for a crisis? They come up, you know? And so we just have to deal with that, you know. So take some time, sit down, and write out your SWOT analysis. And what SWOT stands for is the S stands for strengths, the W stands for weaknesses, the O stands for opportunities, and the T stands for threats. So look, what are your strengths? You know, what do you have in terms of your resources? What can you draw on? You know, what is it that you do special and no one else can do better than you? You know, list all of that out. And that's usually something that people do not take the time out to think about. What is it that I do best and better? And what do I have around me that'll help me get through any situation? Then list your weaknesses. What are you missing? What do you need? What are you lacking? You know, and that would give you a blueprint in terms of getting from point A to point B, and point B being where you want to be, so that if anything comes up, you can deal with it. Okay. And then what are some of the opportunities? I always go by that Chinese saying of through chaos come opportunities. And the people who generally get through events in their lives see that when chaos happens, they look for the opportunities. What can come out of this? You know, what can I build on? What can I gather? What do I need to go in and do that'll help me get to the next place in my life? And so looking for those opportunities, and, you know, and that's not being mercenary. That's not taking advantage of anybody. That's just saying that when, you know, there is something that's happening, maybe because of COVID, things are not going to go back to where they were before. So that's going to create more opportunities to start looking in terms of other things that we can do. Okay. And even in the middle of this, someone was telling me about a friend of hers that, you know, lost her job to COVID. Her daughter's working, but it's not bringing enough income. So she had a basement she wasn't using. So what she decided to do was contact some parents who needed to go to work, but their kids need to be home to remote learn. And so she opened her basement to about 5 to 7 kids, socially distant, keeping separated apart, to watch those kids, make sure that they're doing their homework, and she's able to make money based off of that. And so that created an opportunity for her to at least keep her house, pay her bill, get her you know, other needs met. She saw an opportunity in the middle of that chaos, and I have to give her great respect in terms of doing that. And then the last one is in terms of what are the threats. There'll always be threats in our environment, you know, so it's planning for that. If you live in a tornado zone like I live, that may be an issue. If, you know, so you need to plan for that particular threat. If, you know, something may happen in terms of a bill unexpectedly, you need to plan for that threat. Okay. So do that SWOT analysis. And I think that if you remember that crisis can reveal and provide all sorts of opportunities, that helps along the way as well. Okay.
Oh,
and
we've got about 5 minutes left.
Okay, I only have one more slide, and let me go through that one real quick, and then I don't know if you want to open up for questions or whatnot.
Go ahead.
Okay, all right, the last slide is I just want to—
You should be advancing, it just takes a little second.
Okay, I'll keep talking. What we want to remember is that the ultimate goal of good health is a positive sense of well-being. And that's what we're really trying to develop here. So don't be shy about seeking therapy and mental health treatment. Don't let the term mental health throw you. Employ some mindfulness meditation. Change your attitude by using affirmations. Tell yourself something positive every day, because we have to change that negative thought loop that runs through our heads naturally. You know, so now you have to make a concerted effort in terms of doing that. Take time to assess and reflect on your relationships, and those relationships with both male and female friends and family. There may be people in your life right now that you really, really need, so hug them close. There may be other family members, and let me just say, sometimes you have to love folks from afar. Okay. So, you know, that's something that you need to keep in mind. You know, so just know where people are and what they bring to your life, and decide that distance that you may need from them, okay, in addition to the social distancing, all right? Set time to meditate and pray. You know, just take 5 minutes. You know, it really doesn't take a whole lot more than that. If you have more, take it, okay? Unplug, get off the television if it's stressing you out to find out all the news. You know, unplug your phone, do all those sorts of things to make sure that you're getting away, and find time for a hobby. Build something in, you know, and you know, the one thing that, before I close, I just want to say this. I love this quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who said that when you change the way you look at things, what you're looking at changes. Okay, and so if you go through that process of, you know, this is a bad situation, but I'm going to look at this differently. You know, I'm going to look at the opportunities. And so all of a sudden that that situation that you're looking at is totally different. Okay. So the state of ultimate well-being is not simply the absence of illness, but it's an improved quality of life. And I think that that's what we're all really working to achieve. Okay. So I hope I made it in the time frame.
Sorry, Olga, about the slide not advancing. I think there's just a time lag because of recording and whatnot. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Well, Olga, we want to take this opportunity to thank you so much. And everybody, we didn't want to take a lot of your time. This webinar is only 40 minutes because we value who you are. And we wanted to make sure that we all had some sort of connectedness. And this was just so helpful to me, and I hope it was helpful to you as well. We're having another webinar next week on forest bathing and mindfulness. We're trying to connect what's happening to us emotionally to nature and our environment. We may have time for one quick question or comment. Anybody?
And you can raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Okay, if not, please send us an email and let us know if this was something good that you enjoyed, because we'd like to continue this series, but we need input, and this is our first one. And we're very, very grateful to Olga for sharing such valuable and needed information. And we want all of you to be safe, be in good health, and be mindful of who you are, because we're very, very grateful that you're here and you were able to join us. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.